Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show today. It's a special show, and I have three of my besties from all over the country coming in to meet on the show today. We had a little bit of excitement and we were torturing each other, quite frankly, before the show. But, it's all in good fun, and that's what relationships are. They're just all about having good fun and just living life the right way, But not only do the people that are coming on to the show today live the life the right way, they're also just amazing, beautiful people. And I just am thankful that each and every one of them, are in my lives. And, sometimes, when I hear people talk a lot, how often, do you have people that are just wonderful for your lives? And you know what? I'm blessed. I want to remind everyone that we have the forthcoming international best-selling book series, The Art of Connection, coming out with our fourth book. That's four. That's numero quattro. We still have our BOGO offer. It is $249, and we just have some, few pages in the book at that wonderful rate because it's actually $269. So I need to get there and change that. So if you want to reach out and say, hey, Robert, I heard you on the show today, I will definitely accommodate the $249 and give you that better rate. Also, please go to Facebook and like us on our facebook.com channel or at YouTube. You can find us at youtube.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. Yes, I know it's hard to understand, but like I always tell people, just bookmark it. That is the best way to find us again, is just bookmark the URL. Also, please subscribe to our iNetrepreneur magazine and the Contemporary magazine. You can go to either website, get on our mailing list. We have, over 40,000 subscribers strong. They're in digital formats, and we can also get copies in physical format if you would like. Also go to NT Events, that's ntevents.net, and you can find some nearly 1,000 events and meetings and summits and shows and, oh my goodness, and our Ultrapreneur Summit, which is coming up the 26th and 27th of July. So we're really excited about that. So enough of the housekeeping. I'm going to get to what this show is about today, and the show is about the Art of Connection series and some wonderful authors that we have here today. And first on the show is the incredible, one of my great friends, Mr. Buddy Thornton. Buddy, hi, how are you?
I'm doing great, Robert W. We are just thrilled to be here. I'm glad you invited me, and since it's a nice hot day, I'm enjoying the inside.
Yeah, I am as well. You got to enjoy this. When it gets over 3 digits, there's no place like home, right?
Absolutely.
Toto isn't, or in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy isn't the only one that looks for home. Buddy, I've gotten to know you. We're going on about a year now, and one of the beautiful things about you is you give out support in boatloads. I think it's your background. I think it's your quality. I think it's that you have a lifelong pursuit of, success. It's in your heart, personal development. You're one of the authors in the Art of Connection book. And, what I'd like you to do is just tell us a little bit about your early background and what was that like? And then we'll go into some later pursuits that you've had.
Well, post high school, I think I started this journey of always being helpful to other people by being a hospital corpsman in the U.S. Navy during Vietnam. I spent a couple of years with the Marines, which you are a Marine, so thank you for your service. But the bottom line is, after that, I pivoted to always being in a logistics space where I was always working with the medical field and always helping people stay healthy. And I was lucky enough to have a very long career in the PBA. So I was in the PBA for 27 years, concurrent to my logistics work. And when I was winding down my career, I was looking for some way to give back. And so I became a mediator. I earned my master's and my doctorate, and I just always stayed in the space where you can be the most help you can be for the person in front of you. So that's kind of my background.
Yeah, and more recently, what I love is like in mediation, you really do help not just people, but you're able to help businesses, aren't you?
Yes, we definitely do circle around to businesses. My program, Tough Conversations and Tough Choices, is aimed at helping business leaders and business owners understand the tough in their environment, and then how to have the conversation that gets them to the other side of that as rapidly as possible with full optimization.
Yeah, buddy, you grew up in Texas.
Yeah.
I grew up in Texas. Which part of Texas did you grow up in?
Well, I grew up in the Panhandle, but I spent a lot of time in the Dallas-Fort Worth area because that's where most of my relatives live. And then my dad, when he retired from his actual career, he had a ranch down in Central Texas in what they call the Hill Country, and he passed away in December at almost 93. So, he spent 90 beautiful years in Texas, and I do love Texas, but Arizona is my home now. But I do go back to Texas quite often, and if you can take the boy out of Texas, but you can't take Texas out of the boy. That's just the way it works.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I started this book project, a couple of years before that you and I met, and when you saw this book project, you took to it. What do they say, like a fish to water? You took to this book project, and you wanted to be a part of it. And not only were you a part of that third book in the series, you took it by storm. You ended up writing a quite, 7 pages in the book, and you really wanted to make your imprint on the book. What was part of the reasoning for you to get in the book, and why did you embrace it so much and take it up as a place for you to be?
Well, it really circles around to the belief that you are only as good as the crowd you uh, uh, move forward with. I hate the silo mentality that Americans live in, and I always try to expand the silo. And when you look at a book that's got potentially 365 authors in it, that is an amazing expansion. And then if you take the book to heart, if you take it and you read it the way it was written, you leave it on your coffee table every morning before you leave the house. Maybe you're eating a piece of toast or something. You look at that day's quote and you read what follows, and then you embed that question in your head. It is a way for you to align with different people and their thinking and expand your own thinking. And I believe that this is one of the tools that I really enjoy. Now, I was in book 2 and 3. I wasn't around for book 1, but when you asked me to write the foreword for book 3, I was quite honored. And when I go through it every day, I look at the quote of the day, and it's like, okay, where was this person's heart? Where was his soul? Where was her heart? What was she trying to get across? And how can I do my best to live to honor what they put on that page? And I think it's a huge motivating book.
Yeah, we the first book, it started with networking. It was a way for entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers all around the world to be able to get in this book and give something back. And that, as started with my son when I COVID came and I moved in from my office, and I'm at a home office, and all of a sudden I'm one of those people. I love being in the office environment. So coming to a home office has been a real wake up for me. It's been hard for me to transition to it, and now I'm somewhat used to it, but I do long for those days. But when my son Troy went across the screen and he says, "You old people have it all wrong when it comes to legacy. It should be about knowledge and not stuff." That had the impression on us, like, why not a book? Why not create something that leaves that legacy of knowledge? And I asked him, I said, why knowledge? And he's like, well, I look at it this way. The government or someone could take your stuff, but you know what? They can't take your knowledge. And if you have the right knowledge, you can always gain back your stuff. And I thought, you know what? That's what it's about. And then the first book came in, and that was the 365 days of networking. And I share this a lot of the time, buddy. I always say the hardest thing I ever did was boot camp. Then after I did the first book, boot camp became the second hardest thing I ever did. It was that first book, and it takes a lot. But what is your why? In the book, and why are you continuing to be a part of the process where some authors don't? Most of them, keep traveling with us here. Why the continuance in this book? Why for you?
Well, I think first of all, the fourth book, targeting gratitude, just that was in my wheelhouse. I live every day. When I get up in the morning, and I get up at the crack of ridiculous 4 a.m. every day, and I'm working with clients by 4:30 a.m. because they're on the East Coast, or maybe they're in India or wherever they are. And it's incredibly important to be able to anchor on what's in front of you. And when you threw gratitude out there as the fourth book, I was like, now, I enjoyed book 2. I really enjoyed being a part of book 3. I really immersed myself in that. But now, what'd you do? You went into the dog pound and you found something the dog in the dog pound could chew on. And now I'm sunk right in. Gratitude is something I teach. We sent each one of our grandchildren on a trip on their 18th birthday so that they would visit a third world country and build a school, dig a well, do whatever they did. And every one of them came back, and when they were asked the question, they said, I will never, never take for granted what I have. And so what we were doing by doing that is we tried to embed gratitude into their heart.
Right.
This book aligns directly with what we did with 10 grandchildren.
Oh boy. I mean, that is amazing, and I love that you make this happen, and you do share with others the possibility of them being in the book, being an international author. And you know, one thing I asked, and that was to if you have your quote, if, one of your quotes from the book, and if you would like to share that with us.
Yes, actually, I will. You cannot have gratitude for things. You cannot have gratitude for environment. Gratitude comes from the people that you circle yourself with, that you can put your arms around and embrace with your heart.
Hmm.
And I think that, to me, that's the quote. And I think when I start to look at the things that I have in my life, I always have to circle back to whose shoulders am I standing on? I've been married almost 50 years. If I didn't have my wife, all the other equation goes away. And so
Yeah.
she's the first piece of gratitude. And then friends like you, the Marines that I still am in contact with from 45 years ago, there are people in your life that you just have to understand that it doesn't matter if they're, low on the totem pole, high on the totem pole, wherever they are. The people and the relationships are the gratitude. And if you can't embrace that, then what in the world are you thinking about?
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you there, and I see that in how you live your life. One of the things I like to say in my life is before you can work on your mindset, you have to have your heart set. Because if your heart is not in it, you're never going to win it. Your mind follows the energy of the heart. you know that is your engine, that is your locomotion. The mind might steer it a little bit, but quite frankly, it's your heart that's that driving force. And that's what I see that you do, in the book. And from that quote, what question did you ask the reader? Did you have that formulated yet for us today?
Yes, I did. When you are thinking of the people who have given you a reason for gratitude, have you got the time, the energy, and the desire to reach out and thank at least one each and every day?
um, I love that. I do. And where does that stem from in your life? Is this something that you learned from someone? Is it something? I see you looking around. You're kind of looking for maybe, because you could even be in the room. I'm not sure, but where does some
Yeah.
of this come from?
Yep. Actually, my wife just popped into the room. When I first was with my wife and I was on duty and she was living in Milwaukee, I wrote a piece. It was a fairly short piece, but it was called Never Say Goodbye. I wrote it in 1973, and it was, anytime you're going to be leaving somebody that you cherish, when you say goodbye, that's too final. It's way too final. So
Yeah.
the essence of the piece was always say, I'll see you later, because that gives them the hope and the energy and the resolve to understand that you're not leaving. You're just taking a short absence, but you're right there in their heart, you're in their soul. And, I only knew my wife 7 total calendar weeks before we got married because I was on duty. It was Vietnam, but we've been together 50 years. And
Oh, wow.
I think that says one thing for sure, that she was God's gift to me. And so if I don't honor her and show that gratitude, then I don't believe that I have earned my place in her heart. So I try to live up to that every day. And that's where the quote and the question comes from is, when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is thank the good Lord that she's still here with me. So, I can't honor her more than that.
And buddy, another question I have for you is, you're very accomplished. You're an avid reader, you're an avid writer, and you're really just an avid coach, mentor, consultant in every form of those words. But has this book done anything for you by being a part of it? And would you suggest this book for others who may not have been in a compilation book, or if they're an author? Heck, I'm an author. Why do I need to be in another book? What would you tell, people about what it meant for you and what it could mean for them?
Well, I think the first thing you have to think about is just the human imperative. We want to survive as a species, but to survive as a species, we have to have relationships. And there are some people who are introverts. There are some people who are extroverts. I kind of ride the fence on that. In the right environment, I'm a very, very open extrovert. But what the book does for me, and has done for me now for almost 2 full years, is it gives me talking points with the people that crisscross my environment. And when they read what I say, or they're looking for someone to maybe suggest to somebody else, refer to someone else, and they think and they go, wow, but this is in Buddy's wheelhouse. And look how well he writes, or look what he says. This is the way he believes. And I think, number one, you don't do business with people you don't connect with. Number two, I'm at a point in my career where I get to pick and choose who I do business with. So at the end of the day, I want to present the best me. And then there was almost 300 authors in book 3, or 280, whatever it was. And I got to write 7 pages. So that means I get 7 touches. And my business has expanded exponentially because of that. And more importantly, my circle of friends and acquaintances has expanded. And to me, that says more than any amount of money that I can ever make. So, live for the relationship, enjoy the money that comes after it.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. And, and again, I'm speaking with Buddy Thornton. He is, you've been in 2 of the first 3 books. You're going to be in the 4th book, which is 365 Days of Gratitude. And, I'm grateful for you, Buddy. You're an amazing person. You're such a support to me. And I was proud to have you write the foreword for the 3rd book. And, like Doritos, we can always make more, right? So who knows what the next book's going to be after gratitude. But all I know is this, there's enough great things going on in the world, and I'm glad I get to celebrate those great things with you.
Well, the sentiment is likewise, Robert. There's nothing in the world I'd rather have than friends that I can trust and love, because I know they trust and love me back.
Thank you, Buddy. Thank you for being on today and supporting the book of The Art of Connection and the iNetrepreneur Network community.
Thank you.
Wow. Again, I just want to thank Buddy Thornton for being on the show today. Just such an amazing human being, and he really is my brother. I mean, I kid you not. And talking about brothers, I mean, why not bring in like my sister? And so here I am. I'm bringing in. I mean, I, I can't even express how cool this gal is. And this gal is the wonderful, the amazing, the extraordinary Diana Hooker. How are you, Diana?
I am awesome. How are you, Robert?
I mean, how can I not be awesome? I have Diana Hooker on with me today. I mean, it doesn't get any better than the hooker.
Yeah.
So, you got you got to like that. And Diana, and I'll follow the same flow as I did with Buddy, but I will never. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just even thinking about it. I will never forget the first time that we ever talked,
Yeah.
and I was able to share some poetry. You were able to share a short story with me, and it I just had this amazing feeling that Diana Hooker is going to be a friend of mine for the rest of my life. I knew that, and I told myself we're just going to do great things together. And I didn't know you, but I believed in what I was hearing so much that I didn't have to know you through experience yet, because you gave me a gift of you by your writing, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. And you've given me a lot of courage and a lot of motivation and a lot of support to do the things that I'm doing for the world, and I really want to thank you for that.
Oh, Robert, thank you for saying that. And I feel the same way about you. I mean, definitely when we met, I guess it's been almost 2 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, and, it was just a quick introduction. But as soon as we had that conversation, it was like we had known each other for such a long time, yet it had only been a few moments. And you have been very instrumental in, my journey in those past 2 years. So much so, I mean, it's even hard to, explain to anyone who's not experienced it.
Yeah, so let's start a little bit. Let's go back. Just tell me like where you were born and just a little bit about your background.
Well, I always like to share the story that I grew up in southeast Kentucky in a little coal mining town called Harlan, Kentucky. Some people are aware of it. When I first moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, I had police officers step back because Harlan has a bad reputation, but I didn't notice that when I was growing up. It wasn't like guns were blazing or anything, but it does have a bad reputation. But one of the things that I loved when I was growing up was stories. Like, my
Mhm.
parents were divorced, so I lived with my grandmother, and, her brothers and sisters would come to visit, and I would listen to them every time. And they would be telling the same stories, but I would hear something different, and even if I didn't, I just enjoyed listening to the story, and I honestly
Mm.
feel that old folk tale storytelling, is still very relevant, and there are people who are very gifted at it, and that's where I wanna be is, like, very gifted at storytelling, and, that just really made an impression on me throughout my life. I mean, yes, I, went to college and got a degree in accounting, and I started my own accounting business. But then I had a dream in 2016 about writing a book. And I really
Yeah.
felt like it was divine intervention. I was thinking, God was saying, Diana, you need to write this book. And it's not just about writing the book, but it's about the journey after I accepted. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write
Yeah.
this book. And it put me on this journey of, working as, a speaker, as a coach, and hearing people's stories and helping them tell their story.
And it's really interesting to me because the story can be through many different lenses.
Yeah.
The story could be growing up. The story could be writing your first book. The story could be, having a business. The story could be, the birth of a child. All these stories matter, and each and every one of us, you know, they always say everyone has a story within them. I always say, boy, you haven't lived much of a life if you had a story, and most of us have multiple stories in our life. If you haven't lived 4 lives by the time you're 50, you probably haven't lived enough. And, one of the things, and I also want to kind of, go over the accountant part, because it's so interesting, because I felt like, how could this accountant be so creative? It's like, is there a left brain, right brain thing? I just found it, really, really fascinating, just, your take, and, your ability to, create passionately the weaving of thoughts that draw people in. And, you do such a great, job of that. And, it's almost like, in a certain way, you know, we do what we need to do for the first part of our life, but we do, if we found some success, we get to do what we want to do for the second part of our life. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And there's probably weaving of both of those things in
Hmm.
there, because we don't stop living, you know what I mean? But we keep getting those experiences. And literally at the end of the day, Robert, I go, what did I talk about with people? What did they share with me? Because I find that there is a theme to it. So I'm
Yeah.
continually gathering lessons. And when somebody tells a story, do you not typically put yourself in it?
Invariably, because in so many ways, we may have lived maybe not the 100% of that story, but
Right.
certain percentages of that story. So a good stories make you feel the character, I believe.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's what I find is like, okay, you know what? So many times, especially when we're going through adversities or we're going through obstacles, we think that we're the only one.
Yeah.
I mean, logically, we know that we're not, but in the moment, we're like, no one can feel this or understand what I'm going through. And I think by being able to share stories, hear people's stories, and let them tell their stories, they figure out that they're not actually alone, that there's a whole community of people that have experienced it, like you said, maybe not exactly like it, but very similar.
Yeah. I mean, and you're touching on such important points, and I think the other part of the points is, if you become gifted, and you've taught a class for our literary community
Yeah.
about writing more creatively, which I thought was amazing, because you took two lenses. One was a very dry lens, and the other one was a very, wonderful, lush, embellished, or, like, how would I say, just, I don't want to say sensual, that's not the word, sensatory or something, lens. And there was such a different feeling. And for me, I like to look around, because I always like to see how is audience engagement. And quite frankly, you did such a good job, on the poor story. I could see everyone starting to kind of, shuffle papers, and, see the clock, and, write letters. And then all of a sudden, you were in the other story, and you could see people, when people hear a good story, they start to lean in. and
Mhm.
and that's what you do. And I thought, that's the superstar thing that you have, and that you can teach entrepreneurs, is, if you can get your prospective audience to lean in, whether it's a story, fiction, nonfiction, or whether it's a training, in business, you have them, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And now that you said that, it's really interesting because I had, an editor was reading, one of my pieces from my book, and, she had asked me to send her some samples of my writing, and she started reading it and was actually the first one that I shared with you. It was the very
Yeah,
first story
yeah,
that I shared with you that I had sent to her, and she said as she was reading it, she was thinking that it was a fiction novel that I was writing, not a no well, Yeah, it's fiction. Yeah, I was like getting confused for a minute, but a fiction novel, right?
Right.
And she was like, oh, this is a horror story, because I was talking about an adversity moment of
Yeah.
being afraid and having anxiety. And she felt it. She said she had to put the book down, but then she wanted to know what happened. And then she picked it back up and finished reading it and realized that it was a true story that I had written, and that I had tied the lesson in
Yeah.
about, even through that adversity, what I had learned.
Yeah, and you weave it so well, because you feel, you feel that little girl, you feel being in the room, and I still am remembering now, and that's the one of the things that I love about the storytelling part, because if you can get the people to feel,
Yes.
in any audience, you will help them remember. And I tell my professional trainers and my speakers, I said, not only do you have to give them something, content, that they rave about, that's educational and informational and causes an impact, etc. Causing a story that's also memorable and attached to you is just as important, if not more important, because there's nothing worse than going up on stage and actually training someone so they go to someone else because they can't forget, they can't remember where they got that original education or information from,
Right.
and so that's very, very important. So there's some associative attachment there. But look, Diana, you're an accomplished author. You're a world class an accountant. You could pretty much do anything that you wanted to, and then here comes along this book, The Art of Connection. It's like, oh my goodness, you get one page. I mean, like, it's like, okay, that's like putting a NASCAR automobile, you know, out on a city street like in Chicago or New York or something. I mean, you got the engine that gets up to win. You know, for you, like, what would be the attraction of saying yes to a book which offers a page, maybe two, maybe three? What got you geeked about being in the Art of Connection book series?
So, Robert, every single day, I pray that my words and my actions will make a positive difference in other people's lives. I don't need to know about it. That's just what I pray for. And
Right.
so, my call to write in the Art of Connection is to make that positive difference, to give someone hope to look for something else, for this upcoming book, which I actually have 2 pages in your upcoming gratitude. And it's about being able to make that positive impact when they come across it. They
Yeah.
know a different perspective on how to look for gratitude, right?
Yeah.
Because we can show love, we can show gratitude in all kinds of different ways in what we do.
Mhm.
As an accountant, I can still show gratitude, I can still show love, because it's what I do, or through my coaching, or through my speaking, or through my writing. It's just an avenue to do that. And so that's what I want to push out. And, that one day, it'll make a difference. And then, this next book, it will be 2 days.
I love it. I have to ask you, because I don't think I know this. How did you become aware of the book itself?
You.
Who me was? How is it me? I
Oh
don't
my goodness.
I don't recall.
Seriously?
I just recall us like talking and having such a great, um, great conversation. If it was me, I forgot that part because our
No.
conversation was so phenomenal then.
So I was in the second, I've been in the third, and now I'm going to be in the fourth volume, which I am so honored and excited to be in this book. But you had called me. I think that you might have just launched, for people to be able to sign up to, select a page. And you had called and you was like, can you check this out? And I'm like, yeah, I can check it out. And of course, I went ahead and signed up and, picked my page. And we had talked about, because it was the second one, and you had asked me to speak about resilience.
Hmm.
And we talked about resilience, which is actually what I even shared when I taught, how to write more creatively,
Right.
was that particular story. And, and the thing of it is that I'm sharing a personal story, which may not seem related to business, but
Yeah,
everything we do in life is how we do it in business, right? I mean, it's how
I
we do
agree.
everything, and everything crosses over. And so the story that I wrote, as you remember, was about my mom being caught in a flash flood and
Mhm.
having to crawl out of her car, grab onto a utility pole, and hold on for dear life for hours. And she couldn't swim. Talk about resilience,
Yeah.
and of course that, from the point of view, it put you in the emotional standpoint of what it would really be like, and that, we can, be resilient and withstand the rough waters.
Well, it just, it's like, the thing about being human that's really crazy is when we are thrust upon,
Mm,
the ultimate in hardships. It's amazing how as humans, if we desire, we can step up into that and call upon all of our greatness, and a lot of that greatness we don't even know because it's in reserve somewhere. And that is one of the greatest things about that story, and it's one of the things about like even business and entrepreneurs, and that's a lot about what this book is about, because from networking, Diana, to inspiration to transformation, and now about gratitude. This really is a book about in one page chunks, you know everyone's ability to have some type of change, to provide some type of meaning, to show some type of statement that, gosh, if I can do it, you can too. And I think that that's what's so neat about this book. And the other thing is what is so amazing is the book itself is starting to get picked up by schools around the country.
yes.
And I know, I know, and it's like, and people are like, well, why would this book be picked up by schools around the country? And it's because kids are enjoying the bite-sized chunks of the stories. It's like having social media in your hands, is what one of the kids told me. I'm like, what? It's like I don't have to read through 1,000 pages or 500 pages or 250 pages to get something. But this gives me something, page after page after page, that's meaningful. And then they said all of a sudden I'm reading like 30 or 40 pages. And Diana, I never ever would have thought of that.
Well, right, and even more so, I mean, and I'm sure that this is part of it too, is they're getting 365 life lessons, positive
Right.
life lessons that are going to make an impact on their life. I mean, we have so much negativity constantly around us, and even in social media, there are, terrible things that are constantly being brought up, which is the emotional point, because we're trying to draw emotion, or
Yeah.
we're trying to do that. And so here you have this book, that is life lessons from a positive standpoint. Or even if it shows something that is from adversity, it gives you the other side. And that's what we need. We need to know that we have hope, that we have something on the other side that's worth it, the
Yeah.
greatness on the other side.
And that's part of like, and I'm so glad, oh, you gave me goosebumps on that. You did. I'm like, wow. Because one of the things we say is hope begets inspiration, which begets the support of the community. And that's what I found in this. This book provides hope that I can be there, and inspiration, that I've did it. Especially, I've had so many people call me, and they get the book from Amazon. It's a 2.1 pound book. That's a heck of a book, paperback book. I wonder how it would be if it was a hardback. And and they call and they say, you know what, Robert? I mean, I'm really a part of something way bigger, because not only am I seeing my page, I see my page partner on the other side, and I see some other people that I know, and then all of a sudden they are like, I'm really a part of an international world community, all sharing a meaningful voice. And again, all I started out with was this 13-year-old boy at the time coming across my desk saying, "You old people have it all wrong." I'm like, you know, well, you know what? Maybe as old people, anyone who was over 20, I guess at the time, maybe we can start getting it right. And so I, like I asked with Buddy, I wanted to make sure we have time. Did you pick a quote that you wanted to share with us during this time
So
frame?
I'm going to share that the 2 dates that I chose are
Hmm.
my son's birthdays,
Wow.
and the page that I write for their date is going to be to them, about them, and kind of, conversations that we've had.
Wow.
And, the one, is God gives us dreams, not just so that we can accomplish something, but for us to learn something along the journey.
Mm.
And the question to the reader is, what lessons have you learned that have prepared you for the next journey?
Oh, wow. I, I love that. And that yeah, again, it's just like powerful. And it reminds me of like what Sean, because I'm usually the one who likes to rhyme and alliterate. I
Yep.
love that. And Sean goes to me, she's like, you know what? Life is lessons and blessings.
Right.
I'm like, you're right. Life is lessons and blessings. And if you look at the blessings that you receive in gratitude, which is for both who gives and receives, that's the origin is give and receive is true gratitude. And then the lessons, all of a sudden, if you look at it, lessons, the trying times may not just be as trying anymore. And I loved how she did that. And so, for you, what is like I asked Buddy, what is the book done for you? And for those who are not in the book, what would you suggest to them? Would you suggest this to other entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers as actually being a place to be? So, you know,
Oh, absolutely. Well, I only have one copy right now up because I keep multiple copies in my office. And I'm in my office right now. And when my clients come in, I'm always giving them the books to take with them, and they are extremely grateful for that. And they'll call me and go, "Oh, I just read," and they'll say who they read and what the story was. And so for me, it's been able to give that gift to other people. It's
yeah,
not just about keeping it for myself. And, it's great to go through the book. And I've gotten to meet and know so many of the other authors, which is just beautiful, that we're all in a community together. And even if there's someone who's not been in it, they become part of the community.
yeah,
And this is the thing, is that, the difference between knowledge and wisdom is action. And we
mm,
all have so much knowledge that we've learned through our own lessons, that I encourage you to share that knowledge so that someone else can have the opportunity to have that wisdom and the action and the greatness in their life and have that gratitude in their life.
you know,
Share your story. I think it's so important.
it really is. And this book, also helped me teach another class, which came from the book. And I go through this class, and I go through like a lot of benchmarks and markers in my life of accomplishments that I have. Not to say, oh, this is Robert, and I'm so great. I
Right.
do it, because sometimes we forget the greatness that we've had in our life because we're going so fast, we don't take that pause. And I have them start writing out their own accomplishments through their life. And the biggest thing that they say is thank you. Like almost like saying, I kind of forgot who I was, where I come from, and what I've done. You know,
Right.
and I think that that's the beauty of what this does is when you sit down and write that page, even if it's one page, it gets you to pause just enough to say, you know what? I am worthy of this life. I am worthy, and I'm going to show up and glow up and blow up, because I do have gifts, and this has reminded me to keep doing what I'm doing and sharing them with the world.
No, absolutely. And, and to take it the one step farther, because we definitely need to own what we have accomplished. But accomplishment is also when we get up, when we've been knocked down. And
Yeah.
those are those lessons that we learn. And if you are able to actually see the gratitude in that, I mean, believe me, I know it was hard in the moment, and it's not something that you wanted to experience, but
Yeah.
then when you can step back and look at it, and then see the lesson in it, and then be grateful for it, it totally changes your entire perspective. That will also lift you up because I'm tough. I actually survived that.
I agree. I agree so much, Diana. Thank you so much for being, here today, expressing your place in the book and your why. And I, I, you know, I love it because, in a way, this book has brought you to my life, Buddy to my life, and soon, I'll be bringing John on. But that I just would have never been in this other world of just amazing people if it wasn't for this one little idea that seemed to have come out of nowhere. And you know what, I'm glad this one little idea, when I was walking around, with almost a blank piece of paper saying, hey, I have this idea for a book, and people are like, you're crazy, who's going to be in some book and whatnot. And you know what, and here we are, an international best-selling book that's in the Library of Congress, that has been an international award winner now for Collaborative Book of 2023. Yeah, you know what? I am proof as well, with everyone who's in the book, that there are dreams and they still keep coming true. And I want to thank you for allowing me to do this dream with you.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. And you know what, Robert? Thank you so much for saying yes to your dream and making it happen, now 4 times. And, because I've said this to you before, I am just so thankful for you and for Sean and, the whole, iNetrepreneur community. It's just been such a blessing to me. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of it and asking me to be here today.
Thank you, Diana. I appreciate you. OMG. I mean, isn't that not what you can say after talking with Diana Hooker? I mean, how amazing. And Diana, we are just going to have so much fun at the Entrepreneur event that's coming out in July. I mean, bring your poetry, bring your short stories, bring your pages. We are going to make it alive in July. I wish I could rhyme that better, but that's as close as I could get to rhyming it. You know what? And you know, I have another amazing person coming up here, a veteran in arms, and I'm so excited that I'm bringing my good friend John Verrico onto the show. John, how are you? Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Robert. And if things were any better, I'd have to be twins to enjoy it.
You know, I love that. And if you're going to have a twin, I hope I can develop one too, in that dish and grow it, because we would have so much fun together. And John, I have to admit, I still remember, I utilize a lot of LinkedIn and, to go out and meet people. And, just like Buddy, just like Diana, I do that because, you know, it's my way of putting myself out there. It's my way of getting to meet the world, even if I can't travel there. And people like, well, what do you mean meet the world even if you can't travel there? Because I may not be there now, but like Diana's, in Ohio, or Buddy who's from Texas, and and John, you're in Pennsylvania now, right?
Right. Yes.
As I recall, I remember that you moved. See, I remember. I listen. I actually listen, and because in a way, when you tell me stories, you're also telling me stories in the place and the times that you lived. And in a way, it's a way for me to journey into the world, even though it's through your eyes. My memories still keep them. And I appreciate about that too, because like Diana and Buddy, you get to allow me to live a fuller life because I get to gleam off of all these things that you've also done. I don't know if I have much to offer you guys, but I, I try to do that as well. And our first conversation was very similar to like Diana's and mine. I felt like, John, I'm gonna know this guy for life, and sometimes I'll call you, don't I will call you like once every 3 months, and I'll say, John, I just haven't had enough. John, where are you at? What are you doing? And, do I not?
We do, and we've I think bonded. I mean, we have got similar backgrounds, and we come together, and sometimes we just need to have our little touch base time, just to show that we're still there with each other, and it's always so rewarding each and every moment we get an opportunity to spend together, Robert. And so I'm so glad to be part of all of this. And it's funny you mentioned stories. And Diana talked about stories, and stories is really, I mean, we are a compilation of stories. Our lives are a compilation of our stories, the stories of those around us. And we always, we're all part of each other's stories.
We are, and I always say, like life, if you look at it as like my grandmother was amazing at making quilts and amazing of doing things, and just the tapestry of it and the beauty of the synergy of all these different pieces coming together. And I look at that like people. You have a piece of fabric, Diana has a piece of fabric, Buddy has a piece of fabric, I have a piece of fabric. And what that fabric really is it's these life stories. But
Yes.
what brings us together is the threads. The threads bring us together. Those are our connections. And
And
people don't know this.
each thread, no matter the size, the color, the shape,
Yeah.
each adds its own brilliance and life to our lives.
It does. And I will share this with you in the original Network Together logo. I'll go like, what do you see? What do you see? And people will say, well, I see a Rubik's Cube. I'm like, no, 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 it's not. Oh, I see these boxes. And I say, well, it's incredible, but no, all those answers are wrong. What I want you to see is I want you to see the space in between, because that's what holds everything together. you know and
Beautiful.
and that really, a lot of that came from my grandmother being able to take all these different pieces of fabric and weaving them together. It's the lines in between. It's like the lines between me and Diana, the lines between you and me, John, the lines between you and me and Buddy, and all of us. It's those lines. They can't be seen necessarily, but they're there, and they connect us, and they're as strong as we want them to be. But oh my
And
goodness.
sometimes we don't even know what those connections are. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We interact with so many people in all different aspects of our lives, and it may be just a brief contact, and it may be a long-term relationship that builds from it. But each and every one of those things has expansion, and things go beyond that, right? Somebody smiles at me, I feel good. I smile at the next person. They smile at
Yeah.
the next person, and all of a sudden we got a bunch of happy people smiling like a bunch of idiots, and we don't know why we're smiling, but it's it all
Gosh darn
it
it,
all just
smile.
exactly. That kind of stuff happens. But in every story there's different parts, and we don't know what's going on in other people's stories. We don't know
Yeah.
where it is in our own lives. Our stories change, right? I mean, there's an old proverb. It's an ancient proverb that says, if you live long enough, everything will happen to you. Right.
Yeah.
So at some point in life, you'll have, good times, bad times. You'll be doing well, not so well. In one story, you'll be a hero. In another story, you might be a victim. And in yet another story, you may be the villain to somebody else. And so, understand that we're all going through different stuff and different stories at different times in our lives. And some of them are great, and some of them are not so great. But understanding that we're all going through that and we all have these different stories, maybe if we just are a little more compassionate with each other, we can learn about those stories and learn from each other and grow together.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And one of the things, one of the stories is just I want you to share a little bit is, like Buddy, a vet, he's corpsman. I was in the United States Marine, communication center operator in field radio communications. Those were what we call MLSs. You also have a long career in the military too. Tell us just a little bit about your career. And I'm sure there were stories there as well, right?
Oh, the stories can go on, but I'll say this: I started out in Brooklyn, in as a little kid in Brooklyn, and then moved to New Jersey, and then kind of coming up through the years, I was the little kid in school, kind of picked on by the bullies, trying to figure out where I was going to fit in life, and wondering whether or not I could. And you've heard me talk about this in the past too, and that helped me. It actually helped me to try to understand who I was and where I fit in.
Yeah.
I was inspired by monster movies. I think I've told you this story as well. And because I knew that in monster movies, no matter how big and bad the monster was, the little guy could still win. And so that kind of started me off of trying to find my direction, try to find those solutions to the problems, try to be innovative, try to build teams, all of those things coming together. And most importantly of all of it is try to find a way to keep that light burning, because the monsters don't attack in the daylight, they attack in the darkness, right?
Right.
So find that light and bring that flash of light and burn that motivational torch. And so all of that kind of led me to bouncing around to different jobs. I did everything from janitor to disco dance instructor to electronics engineer. I was sold men's clothing. I was a short order cook in a pizza place. Kind of tried everything. Then I actually wound up as a journalist, and I started writing. I always loved writing. I love storytelling, going back to the whole storytelling thing again.
Yeah.
And but one thing I did not have in my life was discipline. I couldn't get up in the morning. I was used to, I did so many like nighttime jobs, bartender, like I said, disco dance instructor, stand-up comedy. Once I finally got up enough courage, that when it came time to hold a legitimate, responsible day job, I couldn't get up in the morning. And so I decided that I ought to try the military out to try to create some discipline. And so one thing I did not want to do is I did not want to be a ground pounder. I did not want to go out there and trek through the mud. So I wasn't going in the Army or Marine Corps. Sorry, dude, but
John, I like that one.
So I didn't want to go that route. I had a fear of heights, so I didn't want to go in the Air Force. So I could swim, so I figured the Navy might be the place for me to go. But I found that in the Navy there was a position called the Navy journalist. And I was like, I could write, the base paper or things on board the ship.
Yeah.
And so I joined the Navy as a Navy journalist, and thought I would do a couple of years, get a little bit of experience under my belt, get some discipline. So I learned how to get up in the morning without slapping the snooze alarm. And I wound up doing 25 years.
Wow. That's amazing. I
I
applaud
wound
you for
up
that.
staying in that communication field. And what did I do for all that time? I helped people tell their stories.
I love it. I mean, I I was in communications, but I love what you did a little more than I did. So, John, what attracted you, to this book? Here I am, some guy, talking with you a few, I don't know, 1,000 miles away, and kind of like really in the second dream of my book. I had the first one was 365 days of networking. At least I had something to show. By the time we met, so here comes the second book, 365 days of inspirational quotes. What caused you to believe, in the book, or even believe in me to even do such a thing?
I think it's because when we first started chatting, we started talking about everything other than the book. We talked about our families. We talked about our relationships with our families. We talked about our fathers. We talked about our time in the military, and we just bonded as human beings. And I think that's what's so critically missing so much in the rest of the world too, is people kind of overlook that. The people that
Yeah.
they're dealing with are in fact people. And so because we bonded on that human level, I was more willing to listen to this, lunatic calling me from 1,000 miles away,
Right.
and it was like, after we talked for about 45 minutes, we had like a 15-minute window, I think, booked. And we
Mhm.
talked for like 45 minutes. And then all of a sudden at the end, we're like, look, I really got to go. But, oh, by the way, there's this book thing that I've got going on. And by that point, I said, you know what, I like and I trust this individual, but even more so, I wanted to look into this project and see what it was all about. And the opportunity to connect with so many other like-minded people who just want to help others and make positive impact on the world. I mean, that's what I've been trying to do my whole life. And so I was like, yeah, I think I need to be a part of this. Let's give it a shot. And so I reached out. I was in the book 2. And then when book 3 came around, I jumped immediately on that and was in book 3. And I'm eagerly looking forward to book 4. And I've actually got 2 pages. I'll be putting 2 entries into the next book.
Oh, that's wonderful. Did you have a quote to share with us from one of the previous books?
Well, yeah, actually, in book 3
Mhm.
is where I actually, so we were talking about transformation. And in book 3, I wanted to focus on how our attitude can help us to transform. And so I focused on, I said, our attitude can transform our quality of life,
Mhm.
our resilience, the way we're seen by others, and the impact we have on the world. And it's our choice.
Mm.
And it's
I
all about, it's all about attitude.
It is. It absolutely is, and attitude is amazingly enough, it is a choice. And for you, John, I mean, you're accomplished in so many different ways, and being in the part of book and then being in the part of it again, now coming into the third of 4 books, has the book done something for you? Is it the ability to say something in that type of format? Is it to meet other people? Is it because it gives you a purposeful pause, well, now each year, and would you suggest this book to others?
Oh, most definitely. Let me tell you, first of all, just the experience of being affiliated with so many brilliant, positive, focused people has in itself been worthwhile. Even if the book didn't sell, that experience alone was so rewarding. But the fact that the book is out there and people are reading it, and we are getting feedback from folks that say, hey, this is making a difference in our lives. And I think, Diana said, I don't even have to know for sure if I've made a difference, but the chances are that I have. And so, that makes all the difference in the world, is just knowing that you had the chance. Maybe somebody reads this piece that I wrote about attitude, and in it I've
Yeah.
described, Richard the Lionhearted, and why lions are looked at as being the king of the jungle, even though they're not the biggest or the strongest or the fastest. But it's all about their attitude, and that's growth. And maybe somebody will read that and get inspired, and that's great. And just knowing that that's happening is part of it, and that's why I had to be part of it, especially going into this next book. But I'll tell you, one of the things that was also attractive about this is it's not a long diatribe, kind of like the way I talk,
Right.
just on and on and on and on. I'm a
Right.
I'm a charter member of the group for people who talk too much, on and on and on and on. But but in all seriousness, what I liked about this was little snackable bites.
Hmm.
Right. I think you made the reference to, or your son made a reference, or somebody was saying it was like social media, on paper or in your hand. I
Yeah.
mean, this is social media in hard copy.
Yeah.
They're little, small, snackable bites. And you find that you read one little snackable bite, but you don't stop there. They're kind of like Lay's potato chips. Next thing you know, you've devoured the whole bag.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
and
what happens with this.
and I have to jump in. And so what happened is the teacher of the class, of the boy who said that in the book goes, what's the incredible thing about it is you're getting my students to read again. And they're loving that snack size, that small size, that touchable, stories, because their mind is used to just something coming out and then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. There is not like law and sustainable, let's say kind of like thoughts in a way. Intrusion and distraction and commotion is a lot of the norm with all the data and information that keeps being constantly thrown at them. Well, this is a way where they actually have that, and this is what we've learned. They're still getting that same type of feeling of immersion, but the difference is they get to do it a little bit at their own pace.
Yes.
And that's what's been really, really incredible. And like you said, all of a sudden 30, 40 pages later, they're reading the whole book. I mean, it really, really is amazing.
And they're reading good stuff. They're reading positive stuff. They're reading life-changing tidbits that could really make a difference. And you don't know, one little element in any of this could change somebody's life for the better.
I agree. Well, John, I want to say thank you so much for being on the show with me and Diana and Buddy. You in the same way,
no pressure putting me following those two, by the way.
No pressure at all. I mean, and the things that you share, because it's like, everyone, I've been a short order cook. I've been a professional juggler. I've been in the military. Just so many things. And like for me, I don't know if it was a lacking of discipline. It certainly was. I just felt like there was so much out of life I wanted to do. I just wanted to do it. And I think that's what I'm going to say I love about you, John, is in many ways we're very kindred, because life is worth living, and so we live every day in life the way it should be, embraced with the worth that it gives us. And that's what I appreciate about you.
And as my father taught me, right, learn something new every day. Every day offers us an opportunity for a new experience. And so we ought to be grateful leading up to book 4.
I know.
Grateful for all of the opportunities that life gives us, whether there's lessons to be learned, whether the experience is good or bad. There's lessons to take away from them, and we should
absolutely. And I would be remiss before we get off the show. When I was looking for the Ultrapreneur event, so just so you know, I don't know if you saw that or not, but Diana Hooker put into the private chat. She goes, "Reach for the sky in July."
Absolutely, and nice rhyme too.
Event. I know it. I love that. I love that. Well, John, let's do this again someday. We don't do this enough. See, I have to create a whole book and I have to create a radio show just to get you on and converse with you. But I appreciate you so much.
Robert,
thank you so much for being on the show today.
Pick up the phone, my friend.
I know, and I do. I always make sure you do as well.
And
so
back,
thank
and
you.
Back. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Well, I just want to thank my 3 guests, John Verrico, Diana Hooker, and Buddy Thornton, for being on the show today. I apologize for just a little bit of overtime, but my goodness, they're authors. They like to talk and tell stories. How can you shorten the show? I mean, this is just what we do. And on top of that, they're master networkers and connectors as well. So thank you so much for being with us. Remember, we're here each and every week from 2:30 to 3:30 Arizona time. We're that Maverick State, which happens to be on the Pacific time zone this time of year. So, come join us, send me an email, send me a voicemail, send your carrier pigeon. I don't care. Let's get in touch and let's see if you're a great candidate to be on the show. You guys make it a great week. And I appreciate each and every one of you here with us today. Thank you.
You've been watching the iNetrepreneur Show, a production of the iNetrepreneur Radio Network with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.